And I always tell people it's better having a smaller percentage and making money than having a big percentage and making nothing.
All right. I'd now like everyone to meet David Rivero. David is a serial entrepreneur and business visionary who has shattered conventional business models to build multi-million-dollar ventures from the ground up. With a track record of self-funded success, David's journey is a testament to his determination and unique approach. Dissatisfied with corporate life, he embraced affiliate marketing, paving the way for his entrepreneurial odyssey. Through perseverance, he transitioned from being an affiliate to founding his own brands and launching a successful nutraceutical company. Having generated over $300 million in revenue, David is now dedicated to sharing his wealth of expertise to empower others on their business journey. Welcome, David.
Patrick, that definitely sounded like ChatGPT.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That was definitely like a good old like ChatGPT script. That was good. I definitely would not write that, but that's good.
Yeah, no, it was not. Yeah, writing out an introduction anyway is usually not necessarily always the best thing. So, David, been looking forward to having you. And if we couldn't tell from the introduction there, you've obviously started a few companies and had quite a journey. So, in our conversations, it's come out that really what you're working to do now is take that knowledge to another level and really helping other people to take it on and multiply their success as well. So, let's talk a little bit first, though, about the journey. So you were in the corporate world. So from corporate world to $300 million in sales, what's some of the good stuff that happened in there?
Okay. Just like probably a lot of pretty much almost all, I would say all entrepreneurs probably started at a job, right? They had a job and they probably hated their job like I did. And I actually started as an affiliate, right? I had a full-time job in corporate America. And my side hustle was being an affiliate. So I was marketing other people's products and services online and making a little money. And then when I finally got to the point where I was making decent money, I quit my job and then I became an entrepreneur, right? I was an affiliate for full time first. And then I started a nutraceutical business. I actually had a drop shipper vendor I was working with and he screwed me over. So what he screwed me over was, I'm going to start my own business, right? And then I started with one product. And then, I don't know, 5 years later, I had over 100 from supplements to skincare products. And that did really well. You know, that business was doing over 8 figures every year. Great business. And then after that business, when you're shipping a nutraceutical business, guess what? You need a fulfillment company to ship them, right? You got to warehouse those 100 SKUs, all those pallets. So I was shipping all these products at my warehouse, but then I was like, God, I have all this extra space. So I started getting other clients. So then I started a fulfillment company, right? So we were warehouse like Amazon. We warehouse and ship other people's products. Same thing Amazon does, right? And then guess what? I had 25 customer service agents doing customer service. And I was like, God, I have all this space. I'm going to do customer service for other clients. Then I started a customer service call center business. And then when we're shipping products, I wanted to insure those shipments because we were shipping to 217 countries around the world, doing thousands of orders a day. So I set up a shipping insurance business to insure all the shipments globally and domestically. So as you can see, all these businesses feed off each other, right? Yeah. And that's one thing I teach people to start a business. And if you're going to start another one, start it in something similar where you can monetize customers from the different businesrs.
So building an ecosystem, so you built an ecosystem.
100%.
Because we've talked, and I know there's a lot of things that we've been able to relate on. One of them is that there's always the failures. So I want to go back to that because that's important. But first, let's talk a little bit about what are your 3 big successes that you've had? What would you say are the 3 top successes? Let's start with that.
Number one, just starting all these businesses that have been successful. I've started probably over 7 to 8 figure businesses over the years.
Okay.
And that's a big win, right?
Okay.
Another big win. I've had thousands of employees all these years for all my different businesses, right? So that's a win, like supporting all these people. I still have people that have been on my team for 15 years, 12 years, 10 years, right? Employees that are loyal, that are hardworking. And guess what? I've impacted their lives, right? All these thousands of employees I've had throughout all these years. I'm proud of that. And probably the personal thing I'm proud of is retiring my parents about 15 years ago, buying them a home. They lived in my other one of my properties, and I've been paying them a salary every 2 weeks for 15 years. And my parents have just been living the good life. And that's something I'm proud of, taking care of my family.
Okay. I know there's a lot of people that they're going to want to hear, what do I do? How do I build that? We're going to definitely get to that. There's one thing that is not discussed enough, especially with people who have found success. It can be very easy to compare ourselves. It can be very easy for someone to compare themselves, for instance, just starting out, or maybe they've got a shop and they've got their own line of products and maybe they want to sell them online. They don't really know what to do, but who can look at someone like yourself and what you've been able to do in that area and say, gosh, he had this, that, the other thing. I'm not going to be able to do that. Imposter syndrome comes in, right? Now, one of the things that I love to do, and I started doing, one of the reasons that for me, taking my first multi-million-dollar business and then crashing it into the ground and then ending up living on Skid Row, I obviously had some skills, right? Because I could build multi-million dollar business. But the big issue there and what most people face is really all in here, right? It's really all in mindset. So I want to talk about that a little bit. And one of the things that I like to do is, and have my students do when they're getting down on where they are, is let's look at the failures. Let's look at what this person went through, because it can be very easy to see where someone is and say, I want to be like that, but then not get that success overnight, for instance, yeah, basically become disappointed and give up. And so I'd love to talk just a little bit before we go into the ways that you really build it and how others can do it. What are some of the, if someone wants to do this, what would you want them to know are some of the failures? What are some of the times? Give me, how about this? Give me a time when you thought it was all over.
Just so you know, before I was affiliate, right? I tried starting different businesses and they all failed, right? And back then I was writing like a tax ebook, how to save money on taxes, right? And guess what? I was a finance major. I wasn't an accounting major, right? And guess where I got all my tax stuff information? From my brother, who was a CPA. So I would pick my brother's brain. I'm like, hey, tell me all the tax loopholes. What can I do? And I was picking my brother's brain and I wrote an ebook, right? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to make tons of money because I write the book once and there's no other expense, right? It's just a digital ebook, PDF. And that business failed. And then I tried a translation business, right? I would have all these different independent contractors working from home remotely, right? And I'd go, hey, I'll translate your documents for you. So back then, Google Translate didn't exist, right? So what I would do is I would send it to all these people from Brazil, from Bolivia, from Argentina, from whatever language they needed. And I would charge the client, let's say 10 cents per word, and I would pay them 5 cents. And I was just brokering the deals and I would make money, right? And that business failed and didn't make any money. So I started a web design business. I started all these different things that all failed, crashed and burned, right? But guess what? All those failures, I learned from them, right? What I learned the most is I learned how to market. And I learned marketing is the most important thing, right? Because without marketing and sales, I don't care if you have the cure to cancer. If no one knows you have the cure to cancer, you're not going to make any money. So all those failures really taught me about marketing. And that's what it all comes down to pretty much at the end.
And thank you for sharing that, because that's so important. And it's also the mark of a truly successful individual. I will just share with everybody out there when they're able to talk about their failures. And so if you're seeking a coach, you're seeking a mentor, the first thing to ask them about is their failures. And hopefully you don't have to ask them because because they'll have brought those up, because that's where a lot of the learning happens. So let's dig in a little bit there on marketing. What I'd really love in talking to you, David, someone has started so many businesses and had the failures. Let's talk about where most people are screwing up on marketing. So let's start with this question. What is the single misconception that people have about marketing? If you had to sort through it and you've seen other people do it, done it yourself, what may be something you had to learn? What's maybe something that you were completely wrong about? and that you see others wrong about that you now approach differently?
Number one, people like go, oh, when you start a business plan, people go, oh, I have this great business. They don't think marketing is the most important thing. And people spend too much money on marketing at the beginning. You need to start low. I have a new offer. I invested in this clothing company recently, right? I partnered with this girl. She's amazing. She has a great product line, but the marketing was just like she was losing money in this business, right? And I'm like, stop. Let's
Yeah.
get the marketing down first. Let's start slow. I have the money to put $10,000 a day in ads, but I'm not going to do that, right? I'm going to start slow. So number one is start with a low budget, $100 a day, right? $50 a day, $200 a day, whatever you could afford to lose, right? Because I tell people you're going to lose money at the beginning when it comes to marketing. If you spend it, let's say you spend $100 a day, that's $3,000 a month. Plan on losing most of that, right? You're probably only going to do a couple $2,000 in sales. You're probably going to lose $1,000, right?
Mhm.
Because you're learning. You don't know what works. The number one trick is start slow, start small. There's no rush. This isn't a track meet, right? It's going to take time to optimize, find the right ad before you start making money.
One of the things that I find, and of course, I know you're squarely fixed in the e-commerce side. So one of the things that I find a lot is that people are spending tons of money on, I'm going to call them ads, so on advertising, and they have no business doing so in the first place. And there's so many businesses that go out of business every single day because people are sold on ads. Interesting. I went on Facebook and there was a guide. He said, you have to spend all this money on ads in order to make money. And then the Facebook algorithm told me that this post would make a great ad. So I put $300 in there. So let's back it up. And what would you say what are the three things everybody should be, the questions they should be asking themselves before they spend the first dollar on ads?
Great question. Number one thing is you got to research your competition. That's the most important thing. Before I run any ads, I research what the competitors are doing, right? And if I see an ad that has 1 million views, 1,000 comments, and 10,000 likes, and it's been running for 6 months, guess what, you guys? That ad is working, right? So you can get some good research from that ad, right? But if you see another ad that has 200 views, 2 likes, that ad hasn't been even running yet. It might be a failure. It might be a done. So you want to do research on ads that from competitors that are doing well. And then you play off that. You're like, okay, my product's different than that, but I got some good ideas for that. And then you create your own ad. That's number one. Obviously, you got to have a good landing page and a website. You got to optimize your website to make sure it has good content. Obviously, the headline and the subline need to be good. On messaging is very important, right? You got to have a good message. You got to be solving a problem, right? And why it's a problem to the customer and how you have the solution for that problem, right? All those things you got to do before you spend $1 on ads.
Yeah, those are all really great points. And for me, the biggest thing that I find is that people two big things for me that I find, and I hear what your thoughts are. But one, I find that most people, surprisingly, and I know this was for me as well, do not know what problem they're actually solving. And two, mostly because they don't know, number one, their messaging is off. And so it's spending a whole bunch of money when A, we don't know who we're even trying to target. Two, we don't know how to engage with people and their emotions. So really people thinking that they're selling things instead of emotions. So could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's the messaging is so critical. It's funny. Another example for this clothing brand, right, that I invested in, I thought the demographics were younger. So we're running ads. And then I realized after I'm looking at my analytics, I'm like, wow, our demographics are older. So I was having all these young girls on the ads, on the website,
Ah,
just because I assumed, I'm like, it's this type of product. This is for younger girls, right? But then when I started getting the data, I realized, wow, our demographics skew older. So guess what I did? I changed the ads, the people on the ads, the content on the site. I made it for an older demographic. And now the offer is converting way better. You got to know your market, right?
yeah.
And you can't assume you know your market. Like what I think, the market is going to tell you what the market is. Not Patrick's not going to tell you. I'm not going to
Yeah.
tell you. The customers are going to tell us. And that's what people don't understand, right?
Yeah.
It's not about what I like or what
Or
Patrick
your
likes
friend likes.
or what your
Yeah.
friend likes, right?
Yeah.
It's what the
Yeah.
customers.
Yeah. Yeah. Which comes to a big point of seeking counsel versus seeking validation, where I've seen many times in masterminds that I run, where people come in and they say, I have this product. And then they proceed to go around and say, do you like this? Would you buy this? Who the fuck cares? Right? How do you know that these are even your demographic? So, can you speak to how someone gets from that to where they should be going, which is in knowing your customer, doing their research? How did you make the switch from selling to or thinking it was the younger people to that old? What were the dynamics in that?
Yeah. So at first, I'm looking at what other competitors are doing, right? But I see all the competitors are skewing towards younger girls. So I'm like, oh, that must be I did my research, like I said, right? So I'm doing my research. So I'm like, hey, I see all these ads. It's all young girls showing this and showing that. I'm like, okay, that's what's going to work. So I did that, right? And then after I got the data in, right, from Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and TikTok, I started getting all the data. I'm like, whoa, I'm looking at the consumers that are buying. It's way older than I thought. So my
Okay.
mind, okay, I need a pivot or I'm just going to keep on losing money. So it was, even though you're doing research, sometimes your research is wrong. And the only way you're actually going to know is by actually spending a little money on ads. Or let's say you have a good social media presence, right? And you post things on your account. Let's say you have a decent amount of followers. You could ask your customers questions, which I do on our social media platforms, right? I message, go, hey, girls, what do you think about this product compared to this one? What do you think about this
Yeah.
color compared to this one? And then I had them do a survey and they let me know. That's how I know the next product I'm going to roll out. That's how I know the next color I'm going to roll out. I post it on social media and I let the customers tell me. I let the audience, a market let me know what's going to work, not what I, even though, hey,
Yeah.
I like blue, it doesn't, I don't give a crap what I like. It's what they like.
Yeah, I'm really glad you went there, David, because that right there for everybody listening, that is $1 million at least, $1 million golden nugget. So many businesses go out of business because they're trying to think of what they should offer and they don't ask. They don't ask people, what is it that you would like? And that's the difference of that gentleman, for instance, showing up and saying, do you like this? Instead of showing up and saying, this is the problem that I'm thinking of solving. How do you relate to this problem? And how would you like to see this problem solved? And that's huge. What you just said there. Just ask people what they want.
Yeah.
Simple.
It's funny
Huge.
now with social media, it's free.
Yeah.
Before social media, you had to pay people to get in groups and
Yeah.
study. You have to pay all these people to go to a location and you have to ship them all a product and they would
Yeah.
analyze it and it would cost thousands of dollars. All I do is create a quick image on social media and hit send.
Yeah.
Costs absolutely nothing. And I have the results. Guess what?
Yeah.
And then,
Instantly. Yeah. Yeah. And that's, you can be agile.
yeah.
That's a Kaizen right there. That's a
Yeah,
Kaizen.
it's funny that people don't ask that. You
I
gotta,
know.
I always tell my customer service, like after I provide a service or we deliver a product, I always do a little survey, right, from the customers because I want to get their feedback. And with that feedback, it helps me go, okay, I'm dropping the ball here. They hate this part of the service. They love this part. We got to correct this part. It gives me that data to improve our services, right? Or improve our products. So after you deliver a product or service, ask for their feedback, right?
Yeah.
Constructive criticism is the best.
Yeah.
I tell all my employees, everyone has the green light to hit me up on Skype or message me and say, hey, Dave, I don't like this. And I give everyone the green light to give me
Yeah.
their things they don't like, what they like, anything to improve the business. I don't know everything.
Yep.
I'm just the guy.
Which is that's high level leadership tactic right there, which is critical. Yeah.
Yeah.
And all right. So one important thing here, again, you and I both have seen many businesses fail, both our own and others. One of those key things oftentimes comes down to people not having the right information, and oftentimes they don't want to ask. And so we talked about some different things. We talked about the different points, ads, running ads. And you should do this, that, and the other thing. But Oftentimes I'll ask people when they're running ads and they said, it's just not working. I've tried everything. And I'll say, okay, let's start with this. What's the last book about marketing that you read? What's the last book you read generally about business? So I ask those questions because they're great indicators. So if somebody is out there and that they're, and it's time for them to really up their game on marketing, what do you suggest that they do to learn about it? Instead of just getting it piecemeal from all these different places, is there a book you recommend? Is there a course? Is there what do you recommend? Because it's one thing to go to YouTube and get all these different perspectives. It's another thing to actually invest in the learning and the knowledge, which saves millions.
I'm going to tell you my mistake, and I want you guys not to make the same mistake I made, right? I was dumb and stubborn and wanted to learn everything on my own because I was just one of those guys. Hey, I'm going to prove to my mom, my dad, my friends, my family, I could do all this on my own, right? And that was my stupidity. Obviously, I became successful, but I would have been 10 times as successful if I would have had mentorship or if I would have did a lot more self-education, if I would have did a lot more talking to smarter, richer, successful people that are in my space and learning from them. I'm an idiot. I try to do everything on my own. And that's why one of the main reasons I'm talking here today and I post on social media, because I don't want people to make the same damn dumb mistake I made. I want people to learn from people like me, like you, for people that have been there and done it.
Yeah,
And that's the best way to learn, right?
absolutely.
And I've lost so much money trying to learn everything on my own, which is stupid.
Yeah.
So reading books, going on YouTube, going on TikTok, following followers that you want to be like, right? Following, if there's an entrepreneur that you're like, I want to be like that guy. Follow him, read his
Yeah.
books, go to his masterminds,
Yeah.
go
Invest
his
in
courses.
yourself.
Take his courses, right?
Yeah.
Help educate yourself because you're going to learn so much faster. Don't try to do anything on your own. That was my mistake.
Yeah.
I've learned now. I pivoted, obviously, but that was something I wish I would have started when I was young, and I
Yeah.
did.
That's another multi-million dollar nugget right there. Huge. We know statistically that by seeking out a mentor or coach and actually investing in that, you're speeding up your progress by 50%. And the chances that your business is going to live past 5 years doubles. And same thing here. I did not need to start 14 businesses and run 10 of them into the ground. I could have done it with 3, maybe 1 into the ground. And so thanks so much for bringing that up because that is a critical thing. And there's a natural propensity for entrepreneurs to want to try and do things on their own. I like to liken it to the world is built for right-handed people. So there's a lot of injuries every year for people who are left-handed using right-handed tools. And so as entrepreneurs, we already think differently. We're in about 20%, right? So we're coming up in a world that's built for the 80%. And that tells us don't ask questions. Your ideas are dumb. And I think that's where a lot of that comes from. So that is really very powerful. And all this really great stuff, David. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit. Let's move into e-commerce a little bit more. All right. And hopefully this also illustrates the mindset. So we're talking about all this stuff is really mindset. Mindset is that all success begins and ends there. Now, but if you were to look at what has gotten you the most success in e-commerce, and somebody's out there saying, I want to do this, I'm ready for this, and I just need to know the next 3 steps, or I need to know the 3 things. What would those be? What are the 3 critical things that everyone needs to know to be successful in e-commerce?
Number one, you got to research the product or service you want to sell, right? That's the most important thing. You got to see if there's a market for it, right? So doing research, number one. Number two, you can't make your product the same. You got to have a unique sales proposition, right? If you're just like everybody else, it's going to be the person that has the most money that's going to win, right? Because they're going to buy all the ads, or you guys are both going to compete for the same customer and spend all this money on ads because you guys have the exact same product and service, right? You got to make your unique selling proposition a little unique. It's got to be different, right? And number 3, those are the main 2. And then number 3, guess what? Take some goddamn action, right? People don't. So you don't know how many people message me, oh, I have this great business idea. I have this. And you don't have to write a damn business plan. I've never wrote a business plan in my entire freaking life. Not one. Okay. Why? Because you don't need one. Your research is Google, right? That's your business plan. You're going to research and see what's going on. You're going to see if this product has legs, make sure it's unique. Talk to people, talk to your friends, your family. Go, hey guys, would you buy this product or service? Does this seem pretty cool to you? If they say, I think Dave, that's a crappy idea. And if I talk to 10 people and they all say that, probably a crappy idea.
If they're in your demographic,
Correct. Yes. Obviously, you're not going to ask a 10-year-old for an 80-year-old product, right? You're going to ask people your demographic of consumer, right?
Yes. Yeah.
10 people hate it out of 10, it's probably a crappy idea. And if 10 people out of 10 like it, and you're like, okay, let me ask another 10 that aren't my friends. And then if you get the same response, you're on to something. So people don't do enough research, find out if their product is viable, and those are the main things.
Okay. So in your experience, why aren't they taking action? Like you said, people don't do it. Why?
Because people are scared to fail. That's the number one reason. And anyone that says anyone different, they're full of shit. It's a fact, right? People are scared to fail because of their parents, their brother, their sister, their best friend, their coworker. They're like embarrassed that, hey, if I fail, they're going to laugh at me or whatever. Who cares? You have to try. If you never try, you're never going to know. And that's what life's all about. In my mindset, I love like Kobe Bryant. He was like one of my idols growing up. He took the game-winning shot every time, and he missed a lot, but he wasn't scared to he wasn't scared to take the shot, right? Yeah. And that's why he had all the glory. But guess what? He also had all the failures. Yep. Oh, Kobe took the shot again. So you got to try and not be scared to fail, because guess what? I failed. Like you failed in a lot of your businesses. So did I. Yeah. But I got back up and I tried it again.
Yeah, it's critical that there is no route to success without it. There just isn't. And again, look, see, it all circles back to mindset. Yeah, it all circles back to there is not going to be any success if it's not here. We could talk about all the winning formulas till the cows come home, and I'm sure you've talked to your blue in the face to many people, and then they don't apply it. Why? Because it's something in here. It doesn't have to do. It's really so much more than having.
Before I start something, I already put in my head that it's going to fail. I already say, I know I'm going to run this. It's not going to make any money yet. I already have that mentality. I'm not expecting it to make money day one. I think that, hey, this is going to be about a 3 to 12-month project. And that's when I'll maybe start seeing some revenue. Until then, I know I'm going to lose the first 90 days without even thinking. Yep. I already have that mindset going in. But if you think, oh, day one, I need to start making money, you're going to fail because you're never going to make money on day one.
And you'll have so much anxiety. Where you'll fail will be the anxiety, because they're going to do it with unreasonable expectations that are then going to put you into fight or flight mode immediately. And when we're in fight or flight mode, all the blood leaves the brain, and it's all, and it's all in our extremities. And there's no good thinking in that. I mean, it really is critical. It really is critical to think in that way. So what would you say? What's the winning strategy today for e-commerce?
Winning strategy today, if you are not on social media, you're going to fail. And you need to, I don't care what product or service, if you're a retail on a street, I don't care what business you are, you need to have a social media presence. That's number one. Why? Because it's free. It doesn't cost anything. You need to be on these platforms because that's how you could find out, like I mentioned earlier, you could ask your audience what they like, what they don't like. What's wrong with your model? What's right with your model, right? And you're going to get all that free information to make your website better, right? So with all that information, you're not going to spend money. That doesn't cost you anything, right? You're not spending money on ads learning. It's free learning, which is the best kind of learning, right? So that, obviously having a good website. If you don't have a website presence and you're not on social media, you're going to fail anytime soon, right?
And I think, how about prefacing it with a website that's designed to convert? Not just a website that's pretty.
Yes. Great point.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay, that's a point. So you guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I've been running traffic to, I don't know, thousands of different landing pages throughout my years, right? And the headline and the subline are the most important thing on your website. That very first thing, they're going to be that problem, right? How you're going to put that problem in their head and why it's a problem, and how you have the solution to their problem, right? That's the most important thing, is that, right? The body of the content is honestly not that critical, right? And then you got to have a good package. So whatever if you're pitching a service, if you're pitching If it's a different products, keep it dumb and simple, you guys. Don't have 100 different packages. Have 2 to 4 max. If you have more than 4, that's too damn many. Keep your packages simple. And the number one thing I always do, you always want to have a pop-up right when they come to your landing page to collect their email and their phone number. I've been doing that for the last couple of years, and it's been a game changer for all my offers. Because worst case, if they don't buy, I got their email and their phone number. I send them an SMS. I have a call center that calls them and closes them on the phone. I send them emails. And you guys know, I've been emailing customers for the last 15 years that haven't bought from me. They get an email from me every month, and they haven't bought from me for 15 years. I don't stop until they die or until I die. One of us has to die. When one of us dies,
Many of them probably are dead. You just
Yeah.
don't know. They're still getting your emails.
I don't stop. No one ever gets off my email list. And that's how I run my businesses.
There you go. That would be that's a great book title. I'm gonna hound you till I'm dead. I'll hound you till I'm dead. Yeah. So really, there's been tons of million dollar tips in here. So let's get into a few questions that people have sent in. So one of them, so we have an individual asking really about ads, right? And knowing if that ad if it works or not. So we're getting the question, how do you know how long should you be running an ad before you can really analyze and understand the client demographic in order to adjust it? And maybe in that, you could also explain in just one liner the difference between an ad and a campaign. How about that?
Okay. So regarding the ad part, you guys, let's say you sell $100 or whatever, your product is $100, right? That's what the customer is paying. If you're running traffic and you've already spent $1,000, you haven't made a sale, turn it off, right? Because to make money, you need to acquire a customer under $100, right? Your it's called CPA, cost per acquisition, right? Your CPA has to be less than $100. If it's not, you're just losing money, right? So depending on the product or service you sell, whatever it retails for, you need to try to acquire customers under that amount, right? So when you're spending money on traffic, obviously when you're just learning, you might go a little over because you want to make sure a sale doesn't come in like at $105 or $120, right? So maybe you spend a little more, but I give it like probably $300 or $400 over my retail price, and then I cut. So if the retail price is $100, I'll give it to about a $300 spend. And if it doesn't make a sale, that ad didn't work. I cut. And that's how I do it. If your budget isn't that high, you could do it after 200. It's 200. If you don't have that big of a budget, stop it at 2, stop the bleeding, and move on to your next ad.
Just to give people a little bit of background, a lot of people it's easy to get confused on the terminology between a campaign and an ad. So maybe you could.
When you're running a campaign, you're going to have multiple ads in your campaign. So you're going to be let's say you're running an offer for, I don't know, landscaping. You're going to have a campaign for landscaping, and you're going to have different ads underneath that campaign. And then you might have a separate campaign that's called a retargeting campaign. And that campaign is going to have its own separate ads, right? So you might have multiple campaigns. You might have an ad. We do campaigns for cold traffic, right? Someone that's never seen your product before. We call that a cold campaign, right? And then we have a warm campaign is someone that's already seen the offer, right? But hasn't purchased yet. So there's different ways of how people label things, your terminology. That's how we do it in-house. We have cold campaigns, warm campaigns, retargeting campaigns. And that's how, but remember, all those campaigns have different subset of ads underneath that, if that makes sense.
Another question is, how do you know when it's time to invest in order to scale? So once you make the money. So we've talked before about scaling. So this is a great one. I love when people ask about scaling. So the question here, once you make the money for your business, how do you invest it in order to scale it?
Great question. There's a terminology called ROAS, return on an ad spend, right? When you get to a certain ROAS, which is the amount of money you spend on ads to the amount of sales you do, right? I say when you get to 3 to 1, right? So let's say you're spending $100 on ads and you're doing $300 in sales. That's at the point where you should be making pretty good profit and you could start scaling more. Until you get to that point, you probably shouldn't scale your model. And then you got to fine tune it. And what I mean by scaling, is you're going to spend more money on ads. And you're also, depending on the product or service you have, you might have to hire more employees, right? So if it's a service type of business, you might have to hire more staff. If you're selling a supplement, you might have to stock up on product, right? Because if you scale, you don't have product, it's going to cause a lot of refunds. So when you scale, depending on if you're in a product or a service, you might have to hire more staff, but you don't want to start scaling until it's about a 3-to-1 ROAS, whatever you're spending on ads, you make sure you do it 3 times on sales at least. And if you're doing 4 or 5 times, holy crap, scale it to the moon, right? Spend as much as you can because you're just cash flowing like crazy. There's no reason to stop.
Another question. What would you recommend for someone who's trying to start an e-commerce business? So what platform has given you the best results in sales?
This is a no-brainer. Facebook, you guys. I know a lot of you guys probably don't use Facebook now. Everyone uses Instagram or TikTok, but Facebook is by far, I generate most of my revenue from Facebook. I run YouTube ads. I run Instagram. We run everything. We run Google, number 2. You got to be on Google. If you're not on Google and Facebook, you're going to fail. It's so critical, right? And it's also your demographics, right? So let's say you're doing B2B, right? Not B2C. You're trying to get business clients, not consumer clients, right? You're trying to land a company. That's what you'd advertise on LinkedIn, right? Because LinkedIn is all B2B, right? That's where there's a lot of business owners, business development, executives on LinkedIn, right? So if you're doing B2B, LinkedIn is great. If you're doing B2C, you want Facebook, you want TikTok, you want YouTube, you want Instagram. It depends on what type of product or service you're selling.
All right. And we have one more, which is, David, do you think it's good to do brand awareness ads before launching an ad that pushes the customer to take action?
Brand awareness is always good, right? So anytime you obviously don't want to spend a lot of money. Like I would never spend brand awareness money for nothing, right? Money is money, right? You don't want to lose money, right? But when brand awareness by not spending, like on social media, 100%. If you have a big email database, it's pretty much free to send out email, right? So if you have an email database, you have social media, brand awareness is huge. I would do that at the beginning, but don't run money on ads just to get brand awareness. Run money on ads to make sales, to make money.
And so what are the questions, David, what are the questions that haven't been asked that should be asked? And so in other words, what is the question that most everyone should be asking that you find that they're not?
The number one question is, how are you going to make sales? That's if you're an entrepreneur and you're starting a business, I don't care what product or service you sell. The most important thing you should be thinking about in your brain is, how am I going to acquire a customer? What is my marketing strategy? How am I going to get leads? How am I going to close customers? That is by far the most important thing, because without customers, you don't have a business. I don't care if you have the goddamn best product. You need to know how to market. And so I'm always one of those, I want to help people. The very first question I ask them, I go, how are you getting your customers? How are you getting your leads? I'm thinking about hiring an agency. I go, that's not a good answer.
That's a great answer if you want to flush a few $1,000s down the toilet.
I go, no. I go, you need to learn on your own, or hire someone or learn from someone. You need to learn at first.
Yeah.
You don't want to piss away money through an agency. Agencies, I'll be honest with you, most agencies are failed entrepreneurs that couldn't get a product or service to win and make money. That's the reality. I can't make I can't make my products or service make money. So I'm going to start an agency and get other people's money and lose their money. That's the majority of agencies, not all. Of course, there are some successful agencies, but the majority of them are failed entrepreneurs that couldn't get an offer to work and they became an agency.
Yeah. And really, we talked about it. Remember, I think I told you one of my first businesses was a marketing agency, and I had no idea really what the I've only in the last several years really gotten to the point where, I get this and this works. Yeah. So I love that. That's really good. That money is much better spent, wouldn't you agree, on a coach, even if you don't get the right coach the first time, on a mentor. If you're going to spend $3,000, $4,000 in marketing, to me, I know that's where I've gotten all my value. Now, what do you say about that?
Patrick, 100%. I would spend, if you're going to spend $3,000 from an agency and not learn anything, I'd rather you hire a marketing digital expert that will walk you through and go, look, I want you to teach everything about running Facebook ads, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
Yeah.
How do I create the app? How do I create the pans? How do I do the retargeting? Teach me everything you know, and I'll give you 3 grand.
Yeah.
That's a
And
no brainer. And then you can start doing it on your own, right?
yeah. And
Uh,
the
that's
best
not-
thing to do really is have multiple coaches. One thing that I think most people early on, and I know that when I got a coach, the first coach I got, it was just life changing, and I'd imagine you had the same experience. It was literally life changing because I just saw things that you're paying for perspective. You're paying. We can't see these things that we can't see. It's hard to read the label from inside the bottle.
you know what you're really paying for? You're paying for speed, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So I think you should hire a coach, an expert that's amazing at digital marketing. Why? Because you want to learn faster.
Yeah.
You don't want to do the trial and error on your own where you just lost $20,000, pay someone 3 or 5, and you're going to be up to speed on day after 7 days, rather after
Yeah.
6 months.
Or 10. It would
Whatever it is.
yeah,
Right.
it's what that's teach a man to fish. And I, for myself, and be uncomfortable. I think another thing is to be uncomfortable with it. When I made my first $25,000 investment in mentorship, that's why I'm here. I wouldn't be here without that mentorship. It was uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. Hey, I went in thinking it was going to cost me like $5,000 or $6,000, but you know what? The next month I made 23,000 bucks, and you just can't, you
Like,
can
like
go wrong, but
Yeah, like I said at the beginning of my video, I made mistakes trying to learn everything on my own, right?
yeah,
If I would have had mentors, if I were to do it all over again, trust me, I would pick the smartest guy's brain and learn everything I can from him, pay him some money, do what I have to do so I could grow so much faster.
yeah,
I spent 10 years of trial and error. I could have maybe spent 2 years of trial and error if I would have had a mentor, someone coaching me.
yeah, at
So,
least, at
yeah,
least, at
yeah.
least. David, this has been great. We've had a lot of great speakers. There's millions of dollars of knowledge here, and highly recommend go and do that right now. It's in the chat. There's also the information on how to get a hold of David. But David, can you share for the podcast listeners how they can get a hold of you and where?
You can just go to my website, davidrivero.com. Any of you guys have a business on the landing page, on the main homepage, you can put your name, your email, if what type of business you have, questions you might have regarding your business. I'll respond to you. And if you have a business, you're like, Dave, I'm stuck and I may be looking for some help, some assistance. Maybe you're looking for a business partner, whatever. I do all that stuff. I'm always looking for joint ventures, someone that has a great product or service, but they don't know how to take it to the next level. That's where I come in. And then we could become partners and we could grow. And I always tell people it's better to make money. It's better having a smaller percentage and making money than having a big percentage and making nothing. I learned that on Shark Tank.
David, I know you're gonna. It's funny, like as the conversations we've had over the last week or so,
The
this guy's
Shark
going to
Tank
be on
guys
Shark
always
Tank.
say,
Yeah, but I see you being there, David. As always, and a great conversation. We've had some good ones. I think this is absolutely the best. I look forward to multiple more interviews, and I've learned a lot here today, and I'm sure a lot of other people have. So I just want to thank you again for being here. We'll be seeing you soon. And again, make sure everybody jump onto David's site. Also, make sure you jump in there, sign up for the VIP upgrade. So David's going to have a gift in there as well. And great to have you again, David. Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.